You're watching the Tesla Life with your host, Mark Coughlin. I know what the show's called. I never done that.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. Patrick, what happened there? It was like
Tesla Life.
we got some marbles in the mouth for a moment, but nevertheless, welcome everyone to the Tesla Life number 263. Here we are, the 20th of July, 2022, and a big shout out to our first in the chat room, Stadatras, Starling.
Yeah, Starling.
Derek's in there, Hockey Day's in there, David's in there. So welcome to everybody.
Awesome.
Glad to see
And,
this
of course,
this morning.
Yeah, chat room is moving already. And of course, we've got our regulars, our co-hosts. We have Mr. Case Green joining us from the DC area. How are you today, sir?
I may or may not have the new normal, but my wife and daughter sure do.
Oh, not a good thing.
It is not a good thing, man. It is miserable.
Hopefully, you can avoid it, and hopefully, it's just a mild case.
You may be done with it, but it's not done with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Before we move on, David, you are really close. I added up the numbers that were in the publication that came out at 4:00, and 1.9 versus 2.2. All right, go ahead.
So what is
Also with us
this?
as normal, we have Mr. Patrick Connor joining us from the West Coast. How are you today, sir?
Hello, everybody out there in Tesla Nation. I just took a road trip in my Tesla. We went to Seattle for the day, and it was nice. We left here 90% charge. Made one stop just out at I think it was Tacoma, and got to Seattle no problem. The parking garage where we were staying had EV charging, but they were all full.
Oh.
So I had 30 miles left, so it was no big deal to get to one of the stations in Seattle to charge. But there's two in Seattle, and they're both in parking garages, so you had to pay for parking to charge. And I have a 2016 Model X, so I have free charging for life. I'm not used to paying to charge. What is up with that?
Right. It annoys me a bit because Elon always said, hey, pack your lunch, stay with friends, leave your wallet at home. And like even before he got rid of free supercharging, there were those paid garages. And I'm like, these are not in the mission.
These are not in the mission. Yes.
Right, but it makes sense. They were urban chargers. They're in the middle of Seattle, so I'm okay with that. If that's if
what kind of one-way trip is that, Patrick? About how many miles?
About 300 miles.
300 miles. Okay.
Yeah, Portland to Seattle. It's called the slog around here. That drive, and it's yeah. So if you can fly or you can drive, and neither is convenient.
They're about the same amount of time, I bet. Yeah.
Yes.
When thinking about the check-in at the airport and all the security and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I might have that distance wrong. It's about a 3-hour drive, so that's closer to.
Oh, so that's about 180 miles.
Yeah, there you go. That's probably more like it. Yeah, someone fact check me on Seattle to Portland distance. Yeah, 190 sounds more realistic.
Okay.
I had the 3 hours in my head, and I said 300 miles, but that's not accurate.
Well, now that we're doing charge stats, go ahead.
Yeah. The other thing, this was my first trip with the new 2022.10.8.1, and
so the Model
I
X?
like it. So the charging screen specifically, it used to be it would show you amps, volts, and how long until they got rid of all of that, and not even the it shows you how much range you've added or what your current range is.
Yeah,
but they took out a whole lot of things.
You have to
like how long until you
and
can
then
leave.
Watch the screen while you're locked out of your car. Or do the
I wonder if they're starting to do this, Patrick, because they're looking at making it more mainstream, or
Agreed.
They're looking at they want less questions from people.
Well, yes. One thing they've started doing that I noticed really badly on this trip that really pissed me off is they've decided that they wanted to just bow down to all the newbies who say they want to have the least number of stops instead of the least time spent on the trips. So they're like, hey, stop here for 55 minutes and stop here for 15 minutes. And I'm like, hell no. I'm going to stop here for 10 minutes and there for 15 minutes, and I'm going to keep going because making 5 stops at 5 to 10 minutes each is way better than 2 stops at almost an hour long.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is one nice thing. If you have something like a better route planner or whatever with you, also you can Tesla makes it easy, but that doesn't mean you have to do it that way.
Right. Yeah.
What I've also noticed is that the trip that I made down I-75 from Detroit down towards Knoxville is that they've added about 4 new supercharger on I-75. So the old route that I used to take and the regimented stops I had to make, those are all out the window. So as Patrick was saying, you can make your own route. You can go, you can do 15 minutes and then go to the next one and do 10 minutes and do the next one at 15, because now they're filling in more and more gaps so that you're not dependent on one supercharger in a key spot. You can skip it or stop before it and just run the route the way you want to do it.
Right. And while we're talking about charges, so Friday or Saturday, I left and I did 5 supercharges to the 2 that Tesla wanted. I added 152.69 kilowatt hours. And let's see, I had 2 road charges, 1 road charge, skip, 1 road charge, and a supercharge. And then on the way back, we charged 4 times to get back and got back to 50%. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm whining about charging once on the way there and twice on the way back.
Right. On the way out, it was 535 miles, and on the way back, it was 530 miles. I don't know where 5 miles disappeared off to, but that's what we got.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right, Hockey Day. Elon wants them no further apart than 150 miles. So they're going to be working their way. And I think in a lot of spots, they're getting under that 150. Like they're getting under 100 in some cases. So it's definitely filling out. And as we've seen with the supercharger expanding now at over 35,000 stalls, this just keeps going. So better for all of us.
Yeah,
well, let's get to the number one story today. That's because today was the earnings call for Q2, which we already know the stats about. But Patrick was listening in and took a few notes. What was of interest, Patrick?
Yeah. So one thing that shocked me was they announced that they sold 75% of their Bitcoin holdings. I had no idea. So they sold it with at a profit. They still had the impairment because they still have 25% of their original holdings. So those two, there was still, I think, $106 million impairment. So that Rob Maurer, who I have over here on the screen, he was talking about how he didn't think the analysts had their numbers right because they all seemed to be predicting that Tesla had sold Bitcoin. But he hadn't heard anything to that, and sure enough, their shareholder letter confirmed that their investor newsletter that they had sold a big chunk of their Bitcoin. Musk talked about this on the call, and he said the primary reason was they wanted cash on hand because of the factory shutdowns, and they are open to buying more Bitcoin going forward. And he also made a point to say they have not sold any Doge.
We did too.
Yeah. So it wasn't like lack of confidence in Bitcoin or cryptocurrency in general, but it was mostly just because of the factory shutdowns. They wanted to have cash on hand.
So who announced that? Was Elon on the call?
Oh yes,
yeah,
the first thing I should say is Musk was on the call, even after saying he wasn't going to be on the call. In fact, one of the that was one of the questions is, now that Tesla's not at death's door every day, are you going to change your role? And you said you weren't going to be on the calls, and since then you've been on nearly every call.
Yeah, all but one or two.
Yeah, I think he missed one. And he said, whenever there's bad news, I'll be on the call. When everything's going great, I won't be. And with the factory shutdowns and supply chain problems, I wanted to be on the call. So I think we can expect to see him on these calls frequently because there's always something going on.
This is true.
I think he can't pull himself away from it, to be honest. I think he likes to be on the call.
Yes. Yeah. His only mistake was saying he wouldn't be on the calls.
There you go.
But at least that way, if he's ever not on a call, they can just say, "Hey, he said he's not coming. There's nothing wrong."
Right. Yes, that's he's setting expectations for. It's going to be a good news quarter. Okay, so Musk started with a laundry list of things, and I'll just jump through it quickly. There's no real flow here. Q2 was challenging with the shutdowns, but June was a record month. This puts them on track to potentially make the second half a record-breaking year after you include that second half. The supply chain hell continues. Berlin hit a great milestone of 1,000 cars per week. Austin is expected to cover that same 1K per week milestone in Q3. The 2170 cells are currently being used for production. 4680s are not a bottleneck, and they will not be vital for any of the products for this year. So they have more than enough 2170s to keep everything in production as fast as they can. FSD Beta now has over 100,000 customers. Manufacturing is one of Tesla's biggest strengths. The mega casting is working well on all fronts. Safety. Seatbelt pretensioners is now using vision to detect collisions before they occur, instead of just doing it on impact like other automakers do. The Cybertruck is on track for a mid-2023 launch.
Yeah. The pretensioners is all Autopilot Hardware 3 equipped vehicles. So your Model 3 and my Model X have been upgraded to it, even though they didn't ship with this capability.
Cool. The Cybertruck could be Tesla's best product ever. It will take casting to the next level, and AI Day is coming soon. It should be very exciting. That's the list that he covered, although in a lot more detail.
Wow. Okay. So did he go into detail about AI Day and what might be shown, or was it just a prelude that it is coming still?
It was just a prelude. In fact, one of the questions asked about it, and he said, "I'm not going to steal thunder from AI Day. I would love to answer your question, but I'm not going to."
Man, he's gotten savvy over time.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the past, he would have totally walked right into any. You just give him a little bit of bait, and he would run for it.
Yeah. He's learning.
He's learned to play the game. Yeah.
Yeah. And then
so then on to. Go ahead, Casey.
David was asking about the pretensioner for phantom braking. And I would say that my car has had a lot less of the random stops since the last couple updates. And when you look at the text that's included on the latest version of FSD Beta that's starting to roll out now, it looks like they have really tamped down on the phantom braking. And somebody brought up the point that that they didn't used to do this, and it's just true. They didn't used to do this. Remember the first autopilot crash. The radar saw a bridge, and everything else said, "Oh, it's clear white skies," and then it was deadly. And then they promoted radar to a first-class sensor, and then that's when we started getting our first instances of phantom braking.
The phantom brake.
And then it never went away when they went all vision.
Right. Well, some of the vision training was done with radar.
Yes.
Right. So some of it was trained in, and it will have to be washed out of the data set.
It's like the bad labeling.
Right. Yeah. So, well, if it's going to slam on the brakes, you probably want the seatbelt to tighten up a little bit. So
it's not the explosive pretensioner.
Yeah, regardless whether it's phantom or real.
So that's a feature. It's a phantom brake driver restraint system.
Yeah, the solenoid one would be cool, but the explosive one would be not so cool because that can get expensive.
Yeah. Okay. Next was Zach Kirkhorn, and if you want to know the financials, we're not going to dive deep into those, or actually much at all. The important thing he said is that 50% growth is still on track for this year, unless there are force majeure events in the second half, and the first half has had plenty. So I would not expect complete smooth sailing in the second half, but that means they could. All those bets we have on how much production is going to be, it's still a possibility. They're all still on the table. Yep, 1.5 plus. Come on.
Got the fingers crossed.
Next was the questions. So one of them was unified vector space. When are we going to have it? Elon answered this. He said it's not an absolute requirement for FSD, but it is on the roadmap. It would give surround video with surround inference for all 8 cameras, and they are removing the legacy neural networks. So as those are deleted, they can improve the frames per second rate. They expect to be able to get to 24 frames per second with all 8 cameras, and even up to perhaps up to 32 frames per second. And that's pretty impressive with considering 8 cameras, 32 frames per second, all being analyzed in real time, inferences being drawn about what's happening with the dynamic objects, stationary objects, all of that. So yeah, it's exciting. Some really cool stuff happening there with their hardware and neural networks.
I'm excited for it.
Yeah. The next one was about inflation and pricing. And Elon mentioned how they have 6 to 12 months wait for a car, and they really have to guess what the impacts on the price are going to be of the market based on all the materials. So Elon thinks that the second half of the year is going to be better, that we've seen the worst of inflation, and that that might be able to help them. But they have to worry about lithium and steel and iron and a whole lot of commodities. And lithium has gone crazy in the first half of this year. So, and then he reiterated how if you are an entrepreneur and you want to start a business, you should start lithium refining, not mining. There's plenty. Mining is easy. Refining is the hard part, and that's what is needed. And that you could get software-like margins if you go into lithium refining. It's super profitable right now. I think was his quote.
Well, I mean, when you look at the prices, it's up, what, 70x?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, some of the commodities went crazy. Next question was about Bitcoin. Bitcoin was a great hedge against inflation. At least that was in theory. That has turned out not to be the case, since as inflation went nuts, the price of Bitcoin went down. So they asked if Tesla was going to keep buying and using Bitcoin. And Elon's answer was interesting. He said, crypto is not the most important thing that Tesla does. It's a sideshow. It's a sideshow to the sideshow. Tesla is about accelerating the world to a renewable economy, a sustainable energy future. I thought he was going to throw in a future free from fossil fuels, but he didn't quite get there. I got to get him to say that. That's my new goal.
We can just save it as a soundbite. Elon says it.
That would be awesome. Yes. So he finished by saying crypto is just not something they think about all that much, which from his Twitter feed, I would have never assumed that to be the case.
Well,
I
he
think
did say
Elon has to respond a lot to these to crypto, because there's so many people that are tweeting at him about it. Like, it's nonstop. Like, it's probably the number one thing that gets tweeted at him.
Right.
Is about crypto. So I'm not surprised that like Tesla's not really interested in it. It doesn't. Like I said, a sideshow to a sideshow. That makes perfect sense.
Yes, and it's for fun, and it's not the main mission, and that really kind of puts it into perspective.
And now it's even more of a sideshow because now they've got most of it out the way.
Right. Yes. What was next? Structural battery pack.
Yes.
Elon answered this one as well. He talked about how it provides a dual use, like the wing of an airplane, and how batteries should be part of the car and not carried around like cargo. Architecturally, they have now confirmed that a structural pack is the right way to go, where before it looked good on paper, but now they've actually got that working. And the first effort is always slightly over-engineered. So now that they have it working, they know this is the right way to go. They're going to continue to refine this with each iteration. And this is evolving hand in hand with casting. So casting will take in more parts of the vehicle. It's going to shed weight. They're going to continue to look at which alloys they use and improve those. So all of these are going to go down that fast iteration cycle with each generation making improvements. And you always have to question, okay, is this the right path to go down? And they've confirmed that. And now it's what Tesla does is it's not wait a whole year. It's hey, I found a way I can throw this into the casting, and now there's one fewer part.
Exactly. Yeah, that's That's innovation at work, and
Yes.
not waiting, just adding these things as it makes sense. That's going to propel Tesla, like they've done with almost everything that they've touched. Is like you said, they get it stated the first run through. It works. It's proving our theories. Now
Mhm.
let's improve on it. Let's go through multiple iterations and make it better.
Exactly. Right. Okay. So the next question was about Andrej Karpathy, and he's left Tesla. Will this impact FSD development? And Elon answered this. He said, Andre is and was great. They have a lot of respect for him. He's a very talented guy, but he's also built a talented team. They have over 100 people working on FSD. FSD is on track for this year. And he said, I know people are going to think, there he goes again. But really, it looks like it's converging to this year. So I'm not sure I'm buying it, but that was the message that he was putting out there.
And we said this when Andre had announced he was on sabbatical, right?
Right.
He announced it as he was already on sabbatical.
Yeah.
And we said, you know what? A lot of people go on sabbatical and don't come back.
Right.
Yeah, I had high hopes that he would be the exception, but no, it did not turn out that way.
I mean, he was also continuing to work on sabbatical. I mean, it wasn't on Tesla work, but it was still on exactly AI machine learning. It's like, oh, he's just honing his
Right.
skills where he doesn't have to meet deadlines and stuff. And then, nope.
Right. So it'll be interesting to see where he lands next. I'm guessing he's going to go back to academia. That's where he's from. But who knows? He could end up working on anything. There's a lot of AI has a lot of applications.
Yep. David has a good point there. The casting for the Cybertruck is going to be the frame, and then the cold rolled steel and the brakes. You know, where they bend sheet metal. Those are going to be the structural skin. So
Correct.
you'll still have a frame, but you won't have like the S, X, and 3 where like the skin is hanging onto another frame. They will, depending on the physics, they will just attach these sheet metal and weld them to the casting.
Right. Okay. Next was 4680. So they talked about how they expect to be able to produce enough batteries for 1,000 vehicles per week by the end of the year. Cato has ramped up their automation. Their yields have improved. Most of the steps in the process are now above their yield targets, and the few that aren't are still improving and are on track to get there. So the goal is for Texas to be producing more 4680s than Cato by the end of the year.
Wow.
Yeah. So they're ramping Texas, and it's cool to see that they're solving these problems.
What's interesting that you said they're going to be higher than Cato, but of course Cato was a pilot location, right? So I got to imagine that the number of lines at Texas are going to be much more. Like I just think that Cato was a proof of concept. They got to stock up batteries and produce them as they weren't using them, but now the Texas is actually placing them in some of those SR or Model Ys that they are going to probably scale up massively on the 4680 production lines, because of course they realize the entire company is really hinging forward momentum on the number of 4680s they can make for the Cybertruck, for the Semi, for the Roadster, in that order too, in that order of priority.
Yeah, and none of those vehicles were designed to take another type of pack. So
right, because it won't work. It won't work financially for Tesla if they don't have the 4680 working to the spec that they've already announced pre in Battery Day. So that is their number one mission, to make the 4680 come off paper and match or exceed the specs that they expected it to, along with the production amount.
And that plays into where Elon said that they don't need them for this year, but they need them for next year, because Austin can make 2170 packs, but to put the 2170s in a car that wasn't built to ever handle them is a lot harder than to just run some more down a different path in the factory.
And speaking of hardness, Sandy Monroe still has not broken into that 4680 pack and posted a video.
This afternoon, they got the lid off.
Oh, they did. Okay, because
But
they
still
had
get into
both
it.
ends tore up previously, but couldn't get all the way in. And they said this is going to be a monumental task to get into this thing.
It was. They were 2 weeks behind schedule.
Yeah,
2 weeks.
2 weeks. It even affects outside companies.
Anytime Tesla's involved, yep.
Oh,
okay.
Somebody posted something at 420. Was that one of the milestones?
I don't know.
I think it was a Fremont or Berlin.
I don't know, but I just realized that in my time zone, 420 happens during this show. That's funny.
Indeed.
Okay. Next question was from Peter Farragut, and he said there are some people online who have 4680 Model Ys, and they're seeing some hints that there might be some hidden range in there. Drew jumped on this one and said, with the 4680, they are not trying to throw in everything at once that they showed at Battery Day. They're trying to get the dry electrodes working. They're trying to get scalable volume ramp, and that there's no like hidden unlock that they threw it in and later they're going to announce more range or faster charging or whatever, which I can understand why you'd say that. That doesn't necessarily mean it's true, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, because you don't want to. Yeah, you can't say, "Oh yeah." But anyway,
it also leads to my theory that that they could just be cans, and if he's telling 100% the truth, then they were just cans, but also the structural pack.
So they went on to talk about how the dry process has had major improvements over the last few months. How all the issues with the 4680 are being resolved. This was an interesting aside. He said that you see battery improvements all the time in the press where they've gotten this or that, and it's really cool. But he said most of those are completely not scalable. These are lab-built batteries, and sure, you can make one great custom premium battery, but unless it's a scalable solution that can be mass produced, it's not going to help the mission. Musk went on to say that all the technology that's needed exists today to have a renewable economy. What we don't have is the scale. Technology improvements are nice, but they are not required. Production rate is the limiting factor.
Scale or the will, as we can see by the North Carolina proposal regarding free public charging.
Right. Yes. Political will and determination. We're not lacking technology. We have other impairments.
No, but that is an interesting point, because you're right. There is a battery du jour story, every day of the week.
Every week.
And there's something new. There's something wonderful. It's graphite. It's sea salt. It's whatever. But if it's not scalable and scalable in mass amounts, what good is it? To babysit 12.5 batteries to make sure that they're 40% better doesn't do anything for a car that takes over 800 4680 cans.
Or worse,
right? Unless you want $1 million car, which there's a small market for that.
That's right.
Yeah, but also worse is if it can't meet the longevity requirements. Like if you get a battery and it is cheap enough and it's and you got enough yield, but yet it can't make the warranty that you're already promising. That doesn't look good either.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because you've got to honor the warranty on those cars for 8 years.
And if you lower the warranty for these new ones, then that sends a bad signal. To
then everybody goes, "What am I buying?" Yeah, absolutely.
Next on the list, 2/3 of the batteries that are produced will be iron chemistries. The refining process for iron is easier. It's much more abundant. They went on, which I thought was kind of funny, how most of the elements on Earth, you have iron is very abundant in oxygen. You put the two together and you've got rust. So we're effectively a big rust planet. So then nickel is needed for the long-range vehicles and for aircraft. Now, that wasn't interesting. Why would you throw in aircraft?
Why would he throw in aircraft?
Yeah, so that's on Musk's mind. He's got that in the background there. Yeah. He's thinking about it. They have a cathode facility under construction in Texas. And they're also, Tesla's going to be doing some lithium refining. So they said the best way to learn is to do it yourself. And then once you've started that, you can improve the process. Once you've improved the process, you can share that with the industry because that helps the mission. That helps get lithium prices under control, refined lithium. So that was interesting to see Tesla's going to be doing some of their own lithium refining.
Very good.
Yeah. Next was a comment from Elon that said Tesla's prices are embarrassing. I should have thrown this in with the other comment earlier. And it gets back to they don't know what the world's going to be like a year from now. They have these long queues of people waiting to get vehicles. One of the analysts said, I noticed looking from last year to this year, the wait times are down a little bit. Is that indication of a demand problem? To which Musk was like, no, that is not at all what that means. In fact, if anything, it just means that we've scaled our production so we can deliver more vehicles. We are doing all that we can to get that wait list down. We don't want people that have to wait 6 months, 12 months to get a vehicle. It's like if you go to a restaurant and they tell you it's going to be an hour wait, you're not interested. If you go, you say, I want a burger, you want them to hand you a burger in the next couple of minutes. You don't want to wait an hour for it. And so anyway, I thought that was a interesting.
Who was that Fudmeister that asked that question?
Tony Saganaki, who's the one who asked that.
Terrible.
Yeah. One comment they had, and I think this was for Shanghai, they talked about how they're hoping to have a 40,000 vehicle week, and they should be able to get to that by the end of the year. They've had 30,000 weeks in the past and pushing for a 40K week. Next question was about FSD pricing. Here's one I think everybody should pay attention to. Elon said the price will increase, and maybe later this year. It will go up probably just before they go to the wide beta. So right now, what they have is a limited beta. You have to qualify by having a certain safety score. And even if you meet the safety score, if they have enough people in the program and in the right regions, they're not going to let you in. And so then we saw that when they opened it up in Canada, all of a sudden they stopped entering people in the US. And there were people saying, hey, when I finally got my 99 score, how come I'm not in? And that's just, they weren't taking people in our country at that time. And so he did not say how much it's going to go up. He did talk about how FSD has a value that is really hard to put a number on when it arrives, and it will arrive. So how much is it worth to you to have a car that drives itself?
That says 100K to me. That's what's coming.
Yes. Yes.
You're gonna buy FSD.
The value is going to be what is a full-time driver that drives exclusively for you worth. That's available 24/7
minimum, exactly,
and can happen, 7 days a week, 365.
Yeah,
that's what the value is. Really, it's a private driver that's available at any time.
Does this driver also have discretion? Because that adds to the price as well.
Right. So it's interesting to hear that the wide beta is coming, and because there are some people that have paid for it now and.
Oh, we lost Patrick.
Come back, Pat. There he is.
Oh, he's back.
I'm back. Okay, cool. So if you're thinking about FSD, you might want to buy it before the price goes up. Mark.
Mark. We keep saying if you see something you like and it works, just get it now because the price is going to change. It usually goes up, but sometimes it goes down.
It's definitely going up. Yep.
Yeah.
And you experienced this. You get that discount on EAP, which means you also get a discount on FSD.
Right.
Yep, EAP is now available, and it's basically half of FFSD. So, although I don't believe if you get EAP, you don't get the upgraded computer. So if you're still at 2.5, it would be EAP can run on 2.5. So they're not going to upgrade your computer. So keep that in mind as well.
Right. So here's my last one from the call. There was a question about the supply chain and that how they've run into problems with chips. And the question was, is Tesla going to start making its own chips? And the answer was no. They have no plans to make their own chips. Now, with their FSD computer, they design it, but I'm not sure. Is it TSMC or Samsung? I'm not sure who makes it for them. So they have no plans to make their own chips. They do work closely with their suppliers to make sure that the logistics are all in place. The suppliers see their forecasts. They know what chips they're going to need. And in fact, in some cases, they even have custom chips made because the volume is high enough, and they can take the functionality of several other chips and integrate those all into one chip that works for them. There was a really cool part of this discussion where Musk said that the chip shortage was a forcing function to cause them to reduce the number of chips that they use. And because Tesla is an engineering and software company as well as an automotive company, they could look at that and say, okay, we've been using these 3 chips. These 2 are not available. Can this one do the work of one of these? Can some other chip do the work of one of those? Can we get a different chip that can take the work of all 3 or 4 different chips? We'll have to rewrite the software to do that. But being a technology company, they were able to handle that. Which leads to one of Musk's common sayings: the best part is no part. So if you can take a chip and eliminate it that was causing you supply problems anyway, now you have one fewer failure point. And that was how the call ended, was on that note.
Yeah, interesting, because it's like nothing forces innovation like shortages of parts, because
Correct.
now you're, unlike other auto industry manufacturers, Tesla was scrambling any way they could to keep the cars flowing out. And that if that involved new chips, new software, they were willing and able to do so.
Correct. That's it for the call summary. I only took half the show.
Very good. No, that's lots of cool and interesting information that was shared there. Obviously, if you want to listen to the whole thing, it's available through the Tesla website, the investor website, and you can listen to it
ir.tesla.com.
at
IR
any
for
time.
investor relations.
Exactly. So, yeah, very good. Lots of cool little bits of information. That's going to kind of throw a kink into some of our news stories, because, of course, we had some of those news stories, like Mr.
Andrej
Karpathy leaving was one of our top stories. I will show something that we'll share on the screen here, just so we have time for it, because I thought it was really cool. We're going to share this. Boom. This, of course, is what you get if you supersize your order at McDonald's.
I'm not seeing. Are you sharing something?
Oh, sorry about that.
Oh,
I had to push the
Casey's got it.
There we go.
Hey, we've seen this one before.
With fries.
Yeah.
With fries, please. Exactly. So it made the rounds on the internet this week. Thought I would share it. And of course, if you'd like to follow us through the week, you can do so on our Twitter feed at the Tesla Life. Also, you can follow us on our Facebook feed, the Tesla Life #1.
This is a different one. The last one we saw had a Canadian plate on it, and Putin.
That's right. Yep, this is somebody else. So it's already being mass produced, Casey. You'll be seeing them everywhere shortly.
Yeah, sorry about that. I had to step away. I was getting a solar robot delivered.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Here's an interesting little story. Tesla has been promoting the idea of charging your vehicle selectively in Texas. So what is happening, of course, is most of the country, most of North America, is in some sort of a heat wave that's been lingering now for a few days and may linger into a week or so. And of course, those high temperatures put a strain on the electrical grid, especially in Texas, where we've seen some issues in the past. And Tesla sent an email out to their owners asking them to charge selectively. Look at the times of day that would make sense. Try not to stress the grid too much, because they don't want people to turn into a brownout or blackout situation if everyone's doing it at a specific time, or groups of people are doing it at a specific time. Try to break it up. When the demand is less intense on the entire grid, do that charge overnight. Or if you're going to start your charge in peak or lower charging hours start at, say, 7 p.m., maybe you use the timer in the car and push it till midnight before it starts to charge. So you're offsetting it. So that's kind of interesting, because of course, with more and more electric vehicles on the grid charging from it, that can be more of a strain if they're all done at the same time. So I wouldn't be surprised if Tesla comes up with some sort of addition to the software that in a region would allow maybe the charging to spread out over a number of charging times, as opposed to everyone, you could opt into it and say, put mine on automatic. And then the car would then say, okay, this guy, this region, it's 1 a.m. it starts to charge. This region's 2 a.m. This region's 8 p.m. So that might happen. But it is good to see that the company is looking at those type of things, because, of course, some of the cars are depending on that grid. Not Casey or Patrick's house, because they're solar. No. But
right.
Some of the others.
Yeah. In fact, go ahead, Casey.
I was going to say, I do want to point out that while most of North America and Europe is undergoing record high temperatures, only one region is telling people not to use the electricity.
Right. Yeah.
And that is the region that had a problem in an ice storm a little while ago.
Right.
Ice storm,
heat storm. The summer.
If it's weather, they can't handle it.
Or the winter.
Right.
So we only have a spring and fall grid. But yeah, so like right now we're having a heat wave here, and I'm sending energy into the grid, whereas everybody else is running the air conditioners and putting more demand on the grid than ever. But because I have batteries, the batteries were charged up this morning, and now when the heat is getting intense, between the solar and the batteries, I have a negative grid load. And if that's we don't have. This isn't like space age technology. This is like we said earlier, all the technology to solve these problems exists. We just need them out there in people's hands, getting used.
We just need to implement it smartly.
Yes.
That is the flip-flopping with the political system is not advantageous when it comes to picking the right solution and picking a plan that gets us to the point where it is benefiting all.
Despite the fact that they're the group who invented the EPA.
Let's not do an us-them thing. Let's not go there. But we do need unity. We do need to work together. As much as I love democracy, every once in a while an authoritarian government like China that says, we're going to do this, everybody go that way, would be kind of convenient every once in a while. There's other problems, though.
It has some benefits.
Yes, exactly.
So at my house in South Carolina, I have the same situation where I have negative grid load much of the time. In this rental here, it's a rental, so I can get down to 0, but I can't go past that because I don't have a grid tie. I go right into these batteries behind me, and it's easier that way. Less messing with stuff.
Right, and for a rental,
portable too. If you move, you can take them with you.
Exactly.
Yes. If you go camping, you can take them with you.
Exactly. Hey, your house is not giving us any solar anymore. We were counting on that.
Next story, a little bit about Berlin. And of course, when Berlin was starting to spool up, when they were doing their test cars, Tesla at the end of the test went to the Berlin government and said, we want to punch out another 2,000 tests. And the government said, yeah, go ahead, you can do that. And they got the permit to do so. And we thought that maybe they were continuing to align the production line, or they were making adjustments, trying to improve things as they do.
Putting out demos for the stores.
Yep. Yeah, maybe some demos for stores. But they ended up with 2,000 demos. And of course, they petitioned the German government, said, hey, all these vehicles fall within spec of a brand new car. Can we sell them? And the government looked at, I guess, a test case and said, absolutely, you can go ahead and sell them. So those 2,000 vehicles are flowing into Europe as we speak, which was an option that wasn't available until they requested it.
My favorite part of this is that they went with the environmental angle. After all the all the stoppages they had for environmental concerns, they said, "Oh, but do you really want to throw away 2,000 cars?"
I do want to give us a pat on the back, though, because that is one of the things that we said. I'll bet you that Tesla is going to petition to be able to sell these later. They've got the factory, they've got it going, they've hired the people. They don't want to sit around and wait for paperwork. They want to start cranking out cars. And if that means they have to do it by saying, oh, they're demo cars, and then petitioning later to have them changed, that's what they're going to do, because they move faster than government paperwork processing. And so they did. It turned out exactly like we said.
I think the most pessimistic on it was that maybe they would go to the dealer, or not the dealer, but the stores and the galleries first, and then they would sell them from there as fully fledged vehicles. But it looks like some of them didn't even get that far. They straight from the factory.
Right. Yep. Yeah, we knew they'd find a way, whether they were employee vehicles, whether they sold them under some other category of dealer vehicles, even though they don't have dealerships, whatever, they were going to find a way.
Yeah. Especially with the sheer amount of them. There's no way that made sense to just crush them all.
Exactly. So we've got another screen to share. Actually, we got a couple screens to share with these next two stories. So let's go ahead and share that. And we have talked about this several times previously, but I thought I would mention this one more because, of course, this is the first Canadian city to receive a Tesla Model 3 patrol car. So the city of Bridgewater, Nova Scotia, had been looking into ordering a Tesla for their fleet to start to electrify it. And Tesla was selected, and they decided to pull the trigger. And now they've got their first official Model 3 patrol car. So congratulations to Bridgewater.
Hold on, Mark. Wasn't England telling us that the electric cars can't make good police cars just last week?
Just last week? Yeah, well,
the week before?
I guess Canada was not listening to what England was saying.
I don't care who's on the money. We're going to do what we want to do.
Exactly.
Yeah. But then we also had Argosville was showing us that the numbers work out. So I'm thinking in the article.
Not only do they work out, they're hiring officers with the savings. So, man. And of course, our next story here, this is about a police department that has been looking at those figures now for some time. And they believe that the numbers are definitely working out and that they make sense for them. So we'll just share this particular photo, and this will give you a good idea of how much they feel those numbers are working out.
Wow.
So we've got I believe it's, what is it, 13?
13?
2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 brand new Model Ys.
One thing that the England article didn't specify was what they had, but in the header photo, it was a Nissan Leaf in police livery. So I'm wondering if it matters if you pick the right car, perhaps.
Yeah, definitely.
This, of course, is the Hallandale Police Department in Florida. And the palm trees probably gave that away. But they have decided on moving forward with it. And you'll see that one is decked out in police colors. There's a number of them that are just white. Apparently, they're going to be using it for both a patrol car and also for a detective car as well.
So they're going to have the stealth paint, or they just don't paint them?
Well, I guess white could be stealth, could it not?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, because it looks like every other Tesla out there. But I mean,
It looks like 90% of the Teslas that are sold today.
right. Hey, it's either some yuppie or the police. Hide your stash.
Exactly.
Interesting. So many of these are
congratulations
being
to
converted.
Hallandale Beach, Florida.
Yeah, there's a market here for doing customizations for police departments to install the lights or the radios or whatever they need. If you have a detail shop and you're looking to expand, you might think about this.
Yeah.
Hackaday has a point. I wonder if they are going to disable the pedestrian speakers so they can sneak up on people, especially now that you can't customize it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, NHTSA.
Probably. They'll probably reach under there and snip that old speaker wire. They don't want to be.
Just unplug it.
Yeah. Don't want to be caught sneaking up on people.
Yeah.
Exactly. Let's see. Next, we've got a story about Shanghai, and this kind of ties into Patrick's quarter call. Shanghai had been noticed, the shipping port for Shanghai had been noticed that they were starting to receive a large amount of Teslas lining up on the dock, the particular parking area that they use to load ships. And someone, again, part of the drone army in China, was actually counting them. At the first report of it, there was over 7,000 vehicles awaiting shipment. And then a couple days later, another 3,000 plus arrived. So there are over 10,000 sitting in this lot. Ships apparently can take, these maxed out cargo carrier ships apparently can take somewhere in the area of 7,000 vehicles. So this is more than a full ship's load that is lining up. And of course, with Shanghai spooling up, getting even faster, this, of course, is some evidence of that. Is they usually only send one ship per quarter from the factory. It's looking like it's going to be at least two in this particular instance. So,
you guys
and the other thing is that Giga Shanghai is also progressed into one of the largest shippers of vehicles from any auto manufacturer in China. So it's definitely one of the bright stars in Tesla's bag. It's something that is continuing to show dividends as time goes along.
Over 50% of all auto exports last month were Teslas.
Right. And that's been one of China's goals for a long time. They have not been able to export vehicles to the rest of the world the way that Japan has and Korea. So by having this Tesla branded, it makes sense now why they didn't do the same thing to Tesla that they had done to every other automaker that went there, where they said, no, you have to form a 50-50 partnership with some other. They were like, no, Tesla, we want Tesla here. We want to be an EV leader. We want all the supply chains you're going to bring to that. And we want the exports. So, it's worked out great for Tesla and for China.
And you can definitely see like China had done this strategically to allow Tesla to come in and expand on their own. But as Patrick just mentioned, I think those supply chains are advantageous for China in so many ways. Because all those locally supplied pieces of equipment, the machines to build it, the actual product themselves, those other Chinese EV makers, I am sure they are all over the stats and abilities of that equipment, of those products, and they will be incorporating that type of build into their EVs as well. So they can learn from some of the things that Tesla has done without having to live through it themselves and go through some trial and error. So that's going to speed their EV segment along with arguably the world's leading EV producer and manufacturer.
Whatever excess capacity comes with that, like the lithium refining, the battery assemblers, this, that, and the other things, all the tier one Chinese suppliers for Tesla.
Like just listening to the quarter calls, listening to our Twitter feed, like all this stuff is free information for other manufacturers to know oh my gosh, we don't have to worry about the lithium mining. We have to worry about the refining.
Exactly.
We shouldn't be looking at 2170s anymore as of last year. We should be looking at 4680s because look, 4 times the power, 5 times faster, all that kind of stuff is just free information for an up and new EV company, or one that doesn't have all the resources. They could at least be pointed in the right direction on several different occasions.
Yeah, as long as you don't sue Tesla, you can use it for free.
Yeah, interesting, because Tesla's mission is to advance the entire world. It's not for them to become the biggest. It's for the technology to move forward. So if they instead had a normal profit-driven motive and they weren't sharing all this information, I wonder how different that would be. That would be an interesting what if.
Yeah, because they have been extremely open.
Mm-hmm.
They do guard some things, but man, the bigger ideas, the next thing that they're aiming for, it's all been pre-announced before it's even been there. Think about the mega castings.
Right.
Think
Everybody
about,
all of a sudden came out with micro castings.
The structural battery pack, the 4680s. It's all stuff that they have told us well in advance before they got there. The charging speeds, the what the semi's mileage is going to be. Like, all this stuff is years in advance. So it's kind of interesting.
And you guys remember when we were watching these China exports originally, we were saying, I wonder when they don't have to ride share with anybody, when they get their own ships. And now they've got multiple ships.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Last thing I wanted to touch upon is Elon mentioning in a couple of tweets this week, that as mentioned, with the crazy pricing that's going on in the market currently, is that yes, Tesla does want to roll prices back. They're just trying to get a handle on inflation and what it's going to cost them as time goes along. If inflation can level out, Elon had indicated they can drop pricing as it levels out, or some stability comes back to the market that they were used to. Right now, as Patrick had mentioned, they're looking at pricing a vehicle 6 to 12 months in the future, and they're not really sure where that is going to be, but they know that they have to be profitable. They're not a company that can just lose on a number of, half their vehicles. They have to make that certain profit. So the prices has been raising, and it's really been good to this point for Tesla because the market still wants their vehicles regardless of the up in price. But for those of us that are waiting or foresee wanting one in the future, I really hope that they can roll back some of that pricing as time goes along and things get a little more stable when it comes to inflation.
Yeah. Well, we spoke about sideshows earlier. They with the Dogecoin, or not Dogecoin, the Bitcoin. The other sideshow of theirs is selling regulatory credits. That took a little bit of a hit this quarter as well. But they keep advising us, don't count on this. This is free money. Don't count on it. And but that does go into their forecasting, because you don't want to sell a car for $10,000 that costs you $20,000 to build.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I'm glad to see that they're highly profitable even without those regulatory credits. And there was a lot of the FUDsters were saying, oh, as soon as Tesla's U.S. Incentive goes away, their sales are going to tank. And that has not been the case. And yeah, it'll be the same thing here with these regulatory credits that they're receiving. They have now gotten to a level where they're profitable without them. And certainly no one's going to say no to free money that helps accelerate their mission, allows them to grow faster, to buy property, to expand. But it's not a requirement.
Yeah. Well, that was a jam-packed show. We had a lot of information to go through, and very good that we got so much into the show. We appreciate, of course, everyone joining us this evening. We thank you for that. If you haven't already, please give us a thumbs up. Press that subscribe button. That helps us out, and doesn't cost you a dime, and you're supporting the show. So we would really appreciate that. With that said, Mr. Green, any parting comments this evening?
Yeah, so before we're stricken with the with the new normal, I was able to test out the new camera, and the results were as expected or better than expected. So look to see some of that in an upcoming video at youtube.com/KCGreen. That's KACEYGREEN. Now the footage I took was just of the baby and like Boston, so that footage won't be in anywhere. But now that I know that it will work, we'll some of the future videos we'll utilize it.
Very good, very good. Mr. Connor, what have you got for us this evening?
Well, I blog occasionally at carswithquotas.net. I am with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. You can find us at oeva.org. And my latest article on my blog is about air quality. And this monitor that Casey convinced me to get, and the air...
Oh, and that's it. He's gone.
He's back. He's back.
It was the air monitoring police that got him.
Yes, that's right.
The anti-EPA folks got you.
It's so hot, my fiber melted. I don't know. So we get wildfires here on the West Coast, and it seems like they happen every summer. And we've got air filters throughout the house that I blogged about which ones we bought and why we bought those and what features they have, and you can check it out at carswithquotas.net.
Very good, very good. We want to say thank you to David, to Hockey Day, to who else here? Anders, who joined us, and of course Derek and Stahatris, as well
Arlie.
as I said Hockey Day already, so that's it. I want to thank you all for joining us in the live chat. With that, we also want to thank Mr. Lee Moon, who helps us with our music. And everyone out there, please join us next week. And together, we will find out what is going on in the Tesla life.
Listen to Patrick.
Hey, join us to find out about the future free from fossil fuel.
Well, there's that, but I thought you were going to tell them about being healthy.
I don't know. You prompt me. That's what I say.
Yeah, but anyway, so Patrick always tells us to stay safe and stay positive.
Oh,
so
yeah. Stay positive, test negative. Come on, Casey, test negative.
We're hoping.
I did.
Fingers crossed.
Oh, that's funny.
Have a great week, everyone.